Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of projects on the lathe, Christmas trees and snowmen. And the reason I like these projects is they require a lot of tools and techniques on the lathe. So the first one we're going to look at is this Osage orange tree branch. So once we've got our branch cut, we need to find where the rough center is. So I'm going to place my pencil where I think the center is around the pith, and then I'm going to kind of rotate around the edge of the bark, trying to keep my middle finger the same distance from the edge. That's going to give me my rough center. Once I've figured that out, I'm going to take a nail set and make a little hole there, and then I'm going to flip it and do it again on the other side. The tool we're going to start with is the roughing gouge. Now the roughing gouge is the tool that we use to get all the bark off and to get our knots down flat and to get our branch completely round. So you can see that we're anchored in two positions. There's one on my hip, which is really driving my cuts. And then this front hand is just really guiding what it's doing. So it's anchoring it to the front rest and it's keeping it in contact with the wood. Here we're checking to see if the log is round. You can see that it is bouncing, so we go back to the chisel to continue rounding out. So we've gotten it round using the gouge, and now we're tapering it down. We're going to switch to what's called a spindle gouge. Now the spindle gouge is a little bit skinnier of a tool and it has a steeper grind to the bevel. And I'm using it in a scraping motion here to create kind of a curve for the trunk. Transition to a skew. The skew is used to make sharp angles. So you can see I'm kind of flattening out that bottom. I'm also going to use the skew to mark where the branches are here. So now we're moving on to the actual shaping of the tree. On one side, you're going to see use of the skew to make sharper angles, and on the other side, you're going to see the spindle gouge to make kind of curved cuts. And again, I'm using that scraping cut on that. Guys, take your time here. You don't need to take off a lot of material in these cuts. You're really doing delicate work, so light cuts. So right here, I'm switching to a parting tool on the left side. That is going to allow me to get a flat cut, and I'm going to dig down deep where the base of the trunk is going to be. That's eventually where I'm going to part the tree off and take it off of the lathe. Here we're going to remove the rest and we're going to start our sanding process. So we're going to sand through the grits, starting at 80 and then moving up to 120 and then 180. You just want to go from lower to higher grits. So here I decided that I didn't really like the shape of the top of the tree. So I'm going to go back with my spindle gouge and I'm going to reshape it and then I'm going to resand. So back to the parting tool here, we're going to part our work off of the lathe. I'm going to put my hand underneath, and I've actually turned the speed of the lathe down, and I'm just going to cut until it pops off. So once it's off the lathe, we're going to cut the top off with a bandsaw. Make sure that you use a V-block to do that so it doesn't spin on you. And then we're going to do some hand sanding and finish it with boiled linseed oil. That's going to really help the grain to pop. So the third section of our video here is going to be on the Snowman. So similar to the tree, it's going to take a lot of different techniques and tools to get going, so it's a great intro project. First step is to cut our blank here. You could do this on a bandsaw, but it would require a V-block, so we're just going to use a handsaw. So we'll start with the roughing gouge. This will take it from its uneven surface and take all the bark off and give us a nice cylinder to work with. Here we're going to use a skew and a parting tool to make a small tenon on the end of our blank here so that we can put it into the chuck on the other lathe. The parting tool will be used to mark out the sections of our snowman, so the 3 body sections and where the hat goes. So we'll go back to our roughing gouge here. We'll use it to rough out the basic shape of the snowman, and then we'll move to the skew for the detail work. So we got it roughed out into our shape. We're going to turn the skew on its side now to get those smooth, intricate details. This will really allow us to get in and smooth out the curves of the snowman. And once we have the snowman shaped the way we want him to be, we're going to take our sandpaper and we're going to sand through the grits again. So once we've got our final shape and we've sanded, we're going to start parting it off. We're going to cut it down to about 3/4 of an inch, and then we're going to take it over to the bandsaw to cut the rest of it off. It's important when cutting circular or cylindrical stock to use a V-block so that the stock doesn't roll on you and twist up the blade. It's time to move on to the hat now. This is a chunk of walnut that we're going to find center on, take it over to the lathe, and then we're going to shape it up into the hat. And there you have it, our intro to lathe projects. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.